Ladies and gentlemen, we have just a few words at this time for you, please. We have a record number of guests today. Many of you have come to hear our distinguished speaker, but it's also obvious that many people inside the media and outside of the media fear that the quality of American journalism is at stake. Not only do we face the challenge of defining an economic model for journalism that works, not only must we contend with an increasingly hostile international environment that it's dangerous for all journalists, but we also are facing a new administration that is attacking the very foundations of our legitimacy as journalists. Today, here, we are fighting for our values by identifying the next generation of correspondents. I've spent time with them last night and this morning, and they believe that in going to where the story is, in seeking the truth on the ground, and in communicating that in a dispassionate way. This is the essence of what must be done in American journalism. We must understand what is happening around us, not through the lens of ideology, not through the lens of ignorance, but to seek truth that informs our democracy's decision-making. One of my heroes who embodied these values was Roy Rowan. A believer in our cause, Roy created a scholarship in his name in the year 2000, and every year, no matter how difficult, you saw him labor his way up these steps. But Roy is no longer with us. He died late last year. May we have a moment of silence, please, for him. Thank you. One other note before I sit down. Our foundation has emerged as the fiscal sponsor for the entire industry's efforts to train and better equip journalists, particularly freelance journalists working in conflict zones around the world. Major foundation funding is flowing through us into this coalition called a Culture of Safety Alliance, ACOS. Here is John Daniszewski, who's vice president of our board, also vice president of the AP, and who's been one of the critical players in creating this coalition, which is aimed obviously at avoiding repeats of the murders we saw in Syria. John Daniszewski.
Thank you, Bill. I'm happy to be here at the start of our lunch to say a few words about our new Global News Safety Alliance. ACOS, A-C-O-S, stands for A Culture of Safety. It's an alliance begun in 2015 after a series of horrible deaths of journalists the previous year, including AP's Anya Niedringhaus in Afghanistan and freelancers Jim Foley and Steve Satloff in Syria. In response, a coalition of news organizations, journalism, advocacy, NGOs, and freelancer groups sat down and hammered out a set of safety guidelines and principles, rules of the road designed to make this industry safer for everyone. Eventually, around 100 organizations worldwide signed on and endorsed these principles. I'm happy to say that ACOS hasn't stopped. It continues to rise, getting news organizations engaged in an unprecedented way to further its mission of practical solutions, for example, in safety training. Some news organizations, I'm happy to say, including the AP, are opening spaces for freelancers to attend their own safety training courses. Others are contributing or covering costs of safety training for freelance journalists. Last fall, ACOS took another big step when we received funding from the Open Society Foundation and the MacArthur Foundation. This is enabling us to structure our work and invest in practical solutions aimed at improving the safety of freelancers and local journalists. Here, I'd like to say a generous thank you to the Overseas Press Club Foundation for being our fiscal sponsors and making things possible for us. Thank you, Bill and Jane. To finish up, if anyone wants to get involved, we would be proud to have you. We are an alliance, the sum of news organizations, NGOs, and freelancers. The challenges ahead of us are larger than any individual. That's why we are coming together as a community. Insurance is a clear example where more work has to be done. ACOS is working on insurance solutions that could serve our community. With these thoughts, thank you. For now, Enjoy your lunch, and the rest of the program will start in a little while.